Game of Theories, where we will pick apart 3 of the most passionately clung to theories in George R. R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series, and give you hope that even the most deceased characters may still breathe again. Since the HBO adaptation is mostly caught up with the books, both exclusive show watchers and book fans can enjoy our theories. But please be aware that numerous deviations from the arcs of the books mean that the majority of our evidence and analysis will come strictly from the text. So we'll be delving into content from the entire series, including A Dance with Dragons, chapters of The Winds of Winter, and the Essos Encyclopedia, The World of Ice and Fire. So beware, for the night is dark and full of spoilers. I'm Kimmie Britt with Subcultured, and this episode is about the feistiest female of the Stark clan, Arya
Stark. Winter is coming. Theory 2. Izembaro Tobho Mott.
Okay, so where theories involving the Order of the Faceless Men are concerned, be forewarned. These theories can become a little convoluted and messy. How can you spot the assassin at your favorite character's back when the most deadly killers cannot even be ascribed a consistent face?
Say it again. Vala Morgulis.
Vala Morgulis.
Good. Farewell, Arya Stark.
4 books and 5 kings ago, back when things were beginning to get a little bit incesting in A Game of Thrones, Arya Stark introduces us to Tobho Mott, the Master Armorer of King's Landing and also master to our favorite royal bastard, Gendry. Is this reference too much of a throwback to an extremely minor character to be significant? No, we don't think so, because there's substantial reasoning as to why Izembaro and Tobho Mott could very well be 2 different sides of the same coin. A master blacksmith and a master mummer are as different as ice and fire, but both characters have just enough clues in the text to support the idea that each may be a little more than they appear. Let's first focus on what we know of the blacksmith. The door of Tobho's shop on the Street of Steel is constructed of ebony and weirwood, similar to that of the House of Black and White. Tobho had a skinny girl attending him in his shop on the day that Eddard stopped in on his quest to find the honorable truth behind Jon Arryn's death, and Robert's bastards. With so many orphan boys roaming around King's Landing, it seems a little out of place that a blacksmith would have a tiny young girl working for him, unless she was placed there in a similar fashion. The description of this girl is very similar to another character, known only as the Waif, that has trained Arya in the past. It would also strengthen her connection to Gendry if Arya has been placed with his former master, while he's running around as a newly instated knight on Lady Stoneheart's orders in the Brotherhood Without Banners. The only other mention of Tobho in the entirety of A Song of Ice and Fire is in Chapter 72 of A Storm of Swords. As one of the only armorers left in the 7 Kingdoms that can reforge Valyrian steel, Tobho Mott melted down Ned's gratuitous overcompensation of a sword, ice, at the behest of Tywin Lannister to create both Oathkeeper and Widow's Wail for the Lannister boys. Must be nice. As a child, Tobho learned to work Valyrian steel in the Forges of Qohor, which, like Braavos, is one of the 9 free cities of Essos, so he has at least a small connection to magic. Now, magic is sprinkled throughout the series, used by characters we don't know very well in ways that we can't yet fully understand. When looking into Glamour's and Mummer's tricks, a myriad of questions pop up with only a handful of instances to refer to. Can a Glamour make a short man appear tall? A skinny man appear bigger? Can a Glamour twist the most dashing features until you see a dragon?
Mothers change their faces with artifice, the kindly man was saying. And sorcerers use glamours, weaving light and shadow, and desire to make illusions that trick the eye. These arts you shall learn, but what we do here goes deeper. The kindly man, the ugly little girl. Chapter 1. A Dance with Dragons.
As Arya is currently training with the Master Mummer Izembaro, and has previously changed her face in the bowels of the House of Black and White, let's turn our attention to the sorcery aspect of glamours. We've had to glamours have mostly been in passing, and they aren't exactly exclusive to the Faceless Men. When we first meet Tobho, he is described to be wearing a sapphire as big as a pigeon's egg hanging from a silver chain at his neck. Now, this could be the same amount of detail that George R. R. Martin gives to every single course of a meal. It is noteworthy as it seems a luxury that's a little bit out of place even to the realm's most successful tradesmen. Various gemstones pop up a few more times in the series, and each time they're connected to a character or item that is assumed to be glamored. In A Dance with Dragons, Melisandre, the Red Priestess of Ashai, successfully uses a glamour to disguise and switch the identities of Mance Rayder and Rattleshirt, with the latter being executed in place of the King Beyond the Wall. When confronted, Melisandre reveals to Lord Commander Snow that the spell was cast with the help of a ruby at Mance's wrist. In the Dunk and Egg novellas, Sir Maynard Plum is widely assumed by the readers to be Bloodraven, using a moonstone as large as a hen's egg. Our eyes have also focused on the square-cut ruby nestled in the hilt of Stannis' fake-ass sword Lightbringer, Lightbulb. Because if that isn't a glamour, I will bend the knee to Stannis. Right now. We also see the direct usage of rubies again in the hilts of Widow's Wail and Oathkeeper, which, as we mentioned, were forged by Tobho, albeit at the behest of crimson-obsessed Tywin. Though perhaps we, like so many Lannisters, are placing too much value in the presence of gemstones. Since the presence of a sapphire is hardly concrete, let's also consider what's going on between the two cities. They're currently in deep chamber pot contents with the Iron Bank of Braavos for the serious amount of debt the crown owes them. Cersei, in her infinite incompetence, refused to pay the bank's representatives. Despite their infamous words, the Iron Bank will have its due. We suspect that it's no coincidence that the prominent moneylenders and the Faceless Men are both located in Braavos. According to a different chapter in The Winds of Winter, Stannis has just signed a contract with the bank, one that he surely can only fulfill if he rules the Seven Kingdoms. So, relying too much on conjecture, we can predict that the Iron Bank will use the Faceless Men to eliminate a few errant ruling Lannisters and secure their business with Stannis in one fell swoop. Who better an assassin to send on this mission than a Tobho Izembaro guy, who spent a lot of time in King's Landing and would know nobles and street urchins alike, and his new acolyte, who has chased cats from the High Towers to the bowels of the Red Keep and has her own buried grudge against the Lannisters. To this theory is the time frame. Arya gained passage to Braavos back in Salt Pans, where she took on the name Salty. Starks in their creativity. This is much closer to Braavos than King's Landing, and according to the timeline, Arya's passage on the Titan's Daughter is somewhere around a month. Leading a double life would be time-consuming, and 2 months is quite a lengthy round trip, but when you swear your life to the many-faced god, your time is no longer your own. It's possible that Tobho hasn't made an appearance in King's Landing since A Storm of Swords, because he was called back to serve at the threshold of a different ebony and weirwood door. Braavos, he's honing Arya Stark instead of steel blades. We've briefly touched on the significance of cats, and it's important to note that the Red Keep is full of them, which is a plague of the most adorable kind. In fact, for every Sansa chapter that mentions a lemon cake, there's an Arya entry that mentions cats. It's the Westerosi law of testing your reader's patience. It also means that every time a cat is mentioned in a non-Arya chapter, which is very infrequent as it happens, we pay attention. As black cats are considered ill omens in Westeros, the tomcat who stalks Tommen's beloved little kittens in the epilogue of A Dance with Dragons is not a welcome sight. This is the same elusive and honorary black tomcat that Arya chased as a training method way back in A Game of Thrones. Possibly also belonged to Rhaenys Targaryen as a kitten named Balerion. There are plenty of instances where Arya herself has chased cats, skin-changed cats, and even donned the identity of a cat. Why then is so much emphasis placed on this one particular cat that he pops up again in A Dance with Dragons? There are some obstacles to this theory. The Tobho Izembaro supposition would be a great device to get Arya back to King's Landing, where she first abandoned her own name, the remaining members of her death list, without necessarily prematurely leaving her training with the Faceless Men, or disrupting other popular theories. And while we like Tommen, we think it would just be delightfully horrid if he was somehow done in by a skin-changed Arya and just Sir Pounce.